In today's video, I wanted to answer the question of whether or not it's possible to wholesale properties in rural areas or small towns. Let's dive right in. The first thing we need to understand if we're looking at a property in a more rural area is that real estate is always bought and sold and priced based off of supply and demand. So if you're in a really small town that doesn't necessarily have a lot of market activity, that may not necessarily work out. On kind of the flip side of that, just because you're in a small town or the property you're looking at is particularly rural doesn't mean that there aren't buyers for that kind of a property. So we really want to look at the data, which is something that I'm going to show you how to do. Anytime I answer one of these questions, like can you wholesale a duplex or a triplex, or in this instance, a rural or kind of a small town property, I like to give you guys a real life example of a deal that we've done and generated a profit off of. So while I answer this question in a little bit more of an in-depth screen share, I'm also going to show you a deal that we made. Hang on, let me look. We made right at $14,000 on. So let's hop onto my computer now, and I'm going to show you the ins and outs of kind of answering this question. So this is a particular property that we wholesaled. We just got paid on this last week here in July. It's it's kind of a cute house from the outside, kind of brick, vinyl, kind of larger windows and things of that nature. One of the neat things with this house, or I should say unique things with this particular house, is that it was on right at a full acre, actually a little bit more. So, for certain people, that's going to be a draw. For other people, it's like, do I really want to push mow that? Probably not, right? So for some people, that's going to be a plus. For others, it's going to be a minus. This is a house that had been kind of taken pretty good care of. It was just kind of outdated, right? Kind of a solid paneling, gold hardware. And I'm going to show you where this property was and all that good stuff. Wallpaper. My in-laws actually just pulled all the wallpaper out of their house and said they'd never put it in again, which good. Also, I don't know what they call that style of the ceiling, but that wood paneling, just a property that needs, quite a bit of updating, right? Now, this is something that you could honestly probably rent out without doing a whole bunch of work to it. Another kind of plus is this additional outbuilding. If you remember, the front of the house did have an attached 2-car garage as well. Pretty large backyard. It's kind of the outside of that additional outbuilding. Panel box that's on, well, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. It's inside the garage. One thing that's interesting, they had tried selling the property on the MLS. They'd also tried for sale by owning it. The last time this particular property was listed, I think was back in 2014 for right at like $96,000. All right, into the meat and potatoes. What you really want to know is, how do you know if the town that you're looking at is a town where you can do deals or not? Now, one thing I'll throw out, if you're a buy and hold investor in particular in a smaller town, direct to seller marketing works really, really well, because you typically don't have a ton of competition. On the flip side, a lot of investors will also kind of look at a market like Indianapolis. You could do this with any other market. And instead of trying to find deals in Indianapolis where everybody else is going, they may do like Muncie, Shelbyville, Columbus, Martinsville, Bloomington, Crawfordsville, Lebanon, Thorntown, Kokomo, Marion, right? Some of these kind of satellite towns. If you're in a really competitive market, you're probably going to make the most money kind of in the hot and heavy areas. But a strategy, if you're finding you're getting priced out, you're having a hard time finding deals, is maybe you go to what we call like one of these satellite or like a bedroom community. Now, these are typically kind of commuter communities. So like, interestingly enough, my wife's grandpa lives in Muncie and commuted to Indianapolis every day for work. So on a deal like this, it was in this small town up here called Thorntown. I still view this as kind of a commuter town, probably all of 30 to 40 minutes from downtown Indianapolis. So somebody who wants kind of that small town feel can have that while also still, having the benefits of working in somewhere like a major metro. So what I would always look at anytime you're looking at a small town like this is really just kind of market activity. I'm in PropStream here, and a really good way to do this is to look for non-owner occupied properties. So these are absentee owned. And we can just go and look at ownership info and look at properties purchased in the last year. Now, there's 1,074. That's actually pretty stout for how small this town is. So we may want to make sure. Okay, yeah. So that said one or more. So I'm glad we caught that. So we're going to do the max of 1 year. And okay, so 871 people have bought properties in kind of this small town where we got this deal in the past year. So if I lived in this town, I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of marketing, looking for deals there. Maybe if I didn't want to get into like the city stuff, right? Now, we could narrow this down a little bit more, like get into property types and things of that nature. If I go to just single family houses, still 125 deals in this little town in just the past year, really looks pretty good. So I want to highlight kind of the challenge with doing a deal in an area like this. And I think the best way to do that is just by showing you our internal dialogue amongst our team on this particular lead. Now, this lead came off of a direct mail campaign that was sent by Ballpoint. All of our letters are branded with our local community website, which is an Investor Carrot template site. Call Porter takes all of our inbound calls and then enters our leads into our CRM, which is Resimply. So that's kind of what our marketing system or like stack looks like. So this particular lead, you can see they said the house next door sold for $95,000. It was in okay shape, but nothing too special. House across the street sold for $147 and is around 500 square feet bigger, but also has similar acreage as ours. Call ours 125, 130, 140. It's really hard saying with it being out this far. The property has an assessed value of 170. All right, so Zillow's estimate, which as investors, we know is not comps, but is never, we use it just a really quick kind of like a litmus test. So they have it at 185. I think that's nuts. So what we're going to do is run this particular address itself through PropStream and kind of look at the comps. So right off the bat, we're looking at both public records and the MLS, and they're stating there was only one sale for $115,000. Now, when you get with more rural stuff like this, you're going to have to go out further in distance as well as potentially further back in time. Now, I normally look for within 6 months, but we're already at a year, so I'm going to add half a mile. And when we do that, we can see, there's a lot of additional stuff that comes up in here. I'm not really going to go through how to like comp out this particular deal because I've already done some videos on how to run comps in PropStream, which I'll link to above. But just wanted you to kind of see the range here from 89,000 to 190. So we ended up deciding to run with 150,000 was what we decided on. We felt pretty comfortable with that number. We used the 75% rule, which if you're not familiar with that is, I did a video on that as well, which I will link to above. And we estimated our repair costs to be right at 30,000. So we do 75% of the after repair value minus the cost of the repairs equals our max allowable, minus the profit we want to make, which we typically put in a buffer of 8 to 10K. has our max allowable offer, or MAO. So that's kind of what this little equation is right here. So 75% of the 150,000 was 113 minus 30. Meant that we thought we could sell this property to an end buyer for 83 grand. And the most we wanted to pay was 73. Now, this is exactly what we do. I would start around 60 for this thing because it's way out there. So we actually ended up getting this deal right at like the 65% rule. So 65% of what it was worth minus the cost of repairs was kind of where we ended up. So really we got a pretty good deal, but we're always extra conservative kind of in these smaller towns. The way we look at it, it's gonna sell to somebody if it's priced right. We're not gonna be able to sell it if we overpay. So we do act quite a bit more conservatively on stuff that's more rural. So on this particular deal, we ended up getting it under contract for $68,000, and we sold it to another investor for right at $84,250. Our assignment fee on this property was $14,000. So yes, you absolutely can wholesale properties in a small town. You just have to make sure that you're getting really, really good deals. The other thing I always like to highlight, just so you kind of have proper expectations, this lead initially came into our website back on May 17th. We didn't get paid on it for 2 whole months. This property closed on July 15th, so right at almost 2 full months. So the other thing to keep in mind, marketing went out before the lead came in on May 18th. So realistically, from the time cash went out on direct mail to a profit coming back in was roughly 2.5 months. So just always like to kind of give you guys the real picture of, yeah, we made $14,000, but it did take some time. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll talk to you guys next time.